Zwick, um, just here with in honor of them releasing and totally screwing anybody who is K40, um, and them releasing K45. I decided to do a video on bossing. I've got like 20 more videos I intend on making. It's just been super busy, and I'm still decompressing after the All Stars. But I figured right now more than ever, it's important that people are efficient with bossing, understand how to maximize your returns on bossing, especially for the free to play or the Litecoiners. So this video is for you guys. I want to start off by just a quick review because it's important to understand. We're going to go over a little bit of boss mechanics here. That you understand the basics that we reviewed in the earlier videos of the troop mechanics, the extrinsic traits in particular. They play a huge part in understanding boss mechanics. Um, these are the speeds. Remember, this is how far they travel per turn. Again, I use feet in my head. These are just nebulous numbers, but that are meters, feet, whatever you want to use. But this is the range. This is how far they can injure from. Again, how far their attacks reach. Again, no surprise here, right? The ranged troops of archers and siege have the longer ranges. The mounted and ground have identical range of 50. That's very important, again, with troop selection. Um, excuse me. And over here you have, again, speeds. This is how far they move during turns. And again, one of the most important mechanic values and mechanic rules you should know is that the battle starts when the first troop comes in range, and generally they get to go first with bosses. So, again, these are the basic statistics of each troop. And again, the way this actually is very salient to bossing is understanding that Mount obviously has the biggest attack. So when it comes to bossing, one of the most important concepts is understanding how you get no wounded, right? It doesn't make sense to hit a boss for 2 million of each resource when it's going to cost you 6 million of each resource to heal. So you ideally want to have 0 wounded. And for the rally runners, right, when you're running rallies, there are things that the joiners can and will do that will affect whether or not they take wounded. Again, I'm going to go over that in a second. But again, I want to really emphasize here, if you understand the attack power of Mount, and again, very ballpark, about twice as much as ground. So if you want to kill a particular boss, and a lot of people do it through trial and error, and they find out this is how much power I have to send of mounted to be able to get a kill. You would generally going to have to send about double the power of ground to get the same kill with no wounded, because the attack is about half. And I'm very much roughly here half. But again, that's the math I use. Range is a little bit better, but still not by much. So again, if you're using mount, you can kill and do a lot more damage, a much stronger boss. Archer and ground, you're going to need about twice the power because they have to get the same attack number to get that kill without any injury. I'll go over that mechanic here. So again, it wouldn't be one of my videos without one of my terrible drawings, and I know you guys laugh at it. I laugh at it myself here too. You got the boss on the left, and generally you're going to see a mount on the right. And the boss mechanics is in boss mechanics, the attacker goes first, always. So what you have here is a mount attacking a boss, gets within 50, and the trick to not having any wounded is hitting it hard enough to kill it in one shot. Think of the sucker punch. Think of whatever way you have to think of this. If you hit it and don't give it a chance to counter because you've killed it in your shot, you take no injury. It's the same with a real life fight, right? If I'm getting in a fight with somebody and I give them a one shot hit, I'm taking no damage. It's the same concept. Once you meet the power criteria to kill it in one shot, you will take no wounded. If you look at this one, this is interesting. And this is actually, I'm starting off with one of the most puzzling things I figured out actually from the Revelations of Maya event. And that is, I couldn't figure out when I did the mounted, which is not the way you're actually supposed to do Revelations of Maya. I couldn't figure out why one general in particular took all the wounded, and the other 4 generals I sent with him, when I sent all 5 at the chief, they didn't take wounded, the other 4. The one guy took wounded, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I figured it out. it was because that one guy had the speed book. So he would rush out to the boss on the Revelations of Maya, take wounded on a counter damage, and then two would finish him off with the kill shot that took no counter damage. So what you have to really understand is that if you're doing a rally, and what this means to you if you're the rally runner, if you're sending a general without a speed book, and your rally joiners are sending a mount troop with a general with a speed book, he's going to be mount 1 and you're going to be mount 2 and you're going to be one taking the counter damage. So their one troop's not going to kill it, obviously, and you take the counter damage. So it's important that the rally runners and rally joiners have the same speed book situation, but you and I both know if you're in a alliance with more than 10 people, that's like herding cats. It's not going to happen. So for that reason, I absolutely do not, and we advise very strongly against our alliance members joining rallies with a mount troop, because I don't have speed books on all my boss runners. I sometimes put them on the assist general, and especially with debuff books now, it's not worth actually messing with those because they're so expensive. So what we end up doing is making sure nobody sends mount or a mount general. So it doesn't matter if I have a speed book. He's always going to be the fastest if it's another troop type. So in terms of boss mechanics right off the bat, the speed book scenario of assist generals and joiners is important. Second of all, what happens whenever you send, and this is all sandboxed out. You can all recreate all of this stuff and prove it all right or wrong, but I'm telling you, I've done this all. We did this a while back. I'm not going to bother with reports because I'm not looking back a year ago through my saved reports. If you look at a mount rally runner and your rally joiner sends ranged, we sandboxed this, and the wounded for my mount went up by about 50%. This is a long time ago. I think I was running rallies with like T13s or something, but it was still sound science and good to science this out. This is what happens at turn 0. And again, we're going to do a little bit of mechanics here. The mountain range start the battle at the same distance, and it starts when the first troop comes in range. Now, for range, that's 500 feet. And since the range troop is the first one to have a range on the boss, he goes first. So when you send a mount rally and somebody in your alliance sends a ranged troop, this is what happens. They start out here. This is the turn 0. This is the beginning. They've now come into range. Turn 1, the range troop gets to send his archer, his arrow out at the boss. Now, this is a turn-based game, remember. So you go, then boss goes. Then you go, then boss goes. Now, if the range troop goes, sends the archer, the arrow at him, gives the next turn to the boss, well, the mount troop with the speed of 600 now is right on the boss's doorstep. And guess who takes that punch back? The mount troop does. Then the mount troop goes on turn 3 and gets the kill shot. Now, that's one of the things that we actually are very militant about in my alliance is we've booted people because they just couldn't listen about sending archers. And I hadn't taken wounded on some of these bosses in a long time. And all of a sudden I started taking wounded. We found out it was one guy who wouldn't listen. We just don't understand what it is. How if you're not capable of listening when we tell you don't send an archer troop to the rallies, after like the 13th time, we're like, all right, I've already healed. I've spent so much more than I got out of those rallies on healing. It's time to get rid of you. So again, this is the number one cardinal sin. Do not let people send archers to rallies. I know there's a video out there of somebody claiming, and it's probably the antithesis of the kind of videos I want to make, that just said, oh, send archers to rallies. And they gave no reason, no explanation, no mechanics on it, and said, oh, this is great. And it's funny because one of the alliances on our server does that. And whenever we take players from them or took players from them, we had to like unlearn that for them. So what you need to understand is you do not send archer troops to rallies because they give the turn to the boss who then takes it out on the rally runner's mount. Now, I saw that video that you guys are talking about and showed me, oh, no, this video says it. Well, the rally runner was sending archers. So it didn't matter. And again, this is basic mechanics, extrinsic mechanics. When I watched that video and I'm like, somebody's saying to send archers, and I saw them not mention speed or range of the troops or the differences once, I knew that was bullshit. So please, please, please feel free to sandbox this scenario if you don't believe me, but stop sending range archers to rallies and you'll stop taking wounded. So, most importantly, you guys got to understand you have to protect the runner. Okay, that's the guy who's got the most troops on the line and can end up losing more resources than he's getting out of a rally. When you're only sending one troop and if you get injured, that's a negligible amount of resources to get back for a Y6 box now. So make sure you're protecting your runner. Make sure that the rally runner is usually for the big ones where you might take wounded using a mount with a speed book. The rally joiner should always send one ground troop, because if you look at the mechanics, and I know what you guys are saying, like if you have 6 armies, you don't have 6 mount armies. You might send 4 mount, a ranged, and a ground. Well, if you send one ground with every other type of troop, the ground will not injure the rally runner. He won't injure archer or siege because the ranges is too long, and he won't injure mount because he's slower than the mount and has the identical range of attack. So one ground troop is the ideal rally joiner troop. Protect your rally runners, guys. Do not send archers. Don't send siege either. Now, another thing that's important to understand about bossing is use the map. The map is important whenever you're hunting for bosses, because a lot of people don't know, and if you look at this picture, everybody knows this map, right? Everybody knows this is your world map. If you tap that little button on the bottom right corner where it says resources, guess what? Evony tells you flat out, we'll put monsters and resource spots near the throne, and the further away you get from that throne, you're going to get worse monsters and resource spots. Generally, we do find that you're going to find hot spots for the big bosses. This is common monsters. If you notice the levels, there are no level 40 big bosses. This is common monsters and resource spots. But you will also find a trend of the better bosses nearer the throne. It's not an absolute papal bull here. Yes, and then by the way, this is a trend. This is not a rule. If you go out past these numbers, you may find level 1 to 7 near the throne. You may find level 40 out far away from the throne. But this is their own world map, and I believe and I agree with that they trend the monsters and the resource spots to be better near the throne. Additionally, something very important with Evony, which is interesting, is that this map is completely distorted. If you look at this map, it would appear that the distance between the throne and that temple is massive, and then the temple to the corner of the map is tiny. As a matter of fact, the distance between the throne and that temple and the temple to the corner of the map are identical. They're both 400 kilometers. Go ahead and look at it for yourself. You would be shocked, which means the hunting grounds between that temple and the end of the map is the same size as between the temple and the throne. So do not neglect that area out there. That is a massive hunting ground. Now, you may not get as many bosses or as good bosses, but for some of you on those servers that are just jam-packed with alliances and you're looking for a little distance, take advantage of this distortion. Let everybody jam into that little inner circle and take a little bit of space moving outwards and get a little bit of breathing room. So understand that's important in terms of bossing. Now, this is a video I took of how I actually search for bosses if you don't have the widescreen mode, if I'm at work or whatever and I want to go hunting for bosses. It helps whenever you do the teleport function that you actually can scroll across the map a lot faster. And I do use like a W pattern so that I'm going up and down looking for bosses, and I tend to find them better that way. So the scroll and moving it faster this way rather than swiping with your finger, I find is a little faster. Right there you go. You find a junior curve, you save it, there you go. Very important also to note is that if you get those days where you have no bosses, it's always Thursday. You guys should know that Friday and Saturday are the double monster events where they double the spawning of bosses. Well, Thursday's that day after Vikes, first day of Ymir's, first day of Pan's, and you're sitting there hunting for this, and you're like, where the hell is everything? Well, that's where they have the quote-unquote regular spawn rate, which is like half of the other rest of the week. But what you should know is this. Bosses tend to, and I've discovered this by saying, you know what, I'm going to clear this area. We want to set a hive here. And I couldn't. Every time I got to almost killing everything, all of a sudden I'm like, it's like whack-a-mole. They were popping up everywhere. And I realized, holy crap, the computer algorithm for Evony makes sure that a certain area of the map is always populated with a certain number of bosses. And when I started killing some of these commons, regular bosses were spawning in the same spot. And you guys will notice this, the guys who have been playing this game a long time, you can actually like bookmark hotspots where it's just boss after boss after boss jumps up in the same exact spot. So, again, stamina with this new update, I don't want to even start touching that because it's going to start giving me I'm going to end up with a stroke. The new update tripled, if not quadrupled, the cost of stamina for per resource. That's again, Yu Ying over at RSP is the one who taught me that. Go check out his videos. I think I have them linked. If you haven't checked him out already, him and Derek are the two, in my mind, brains of Evony. I'm very much like big picture, abstract thinker. They are the precise scientists, the mad scientists who really do the crazy maths that I love learning from. But if you look at that same spot, if there's a common monster in there, a boss won't be able to spawn there because the common's taking it. Same thing for mines. Oftentimes you'll have bookmarks, like I do, bosses, and you're going down the list as you're running rallies, and you'll go tap that bookmark, and there's a mine there or a common there. Something else will replace it if it lasts too long. But while it's there, after a certain expiration for each boss or each mine, but if you kill it, something will spawn sooner. So if you want to, what I call prune or harvest or curate your hunting grounds, and stamina is not an issue, you can get out there and start killing commons, and you will start to see bosses start to populate. Now, again, Thursdays are the non-boss days, so you're not going to get anything great that day anyway. But when you're really trying, it's bone dry. This is what we do. We get out there, and our whole alliance will go start clearing stuff around our hive. It got so bad that other alliances in our on our server would start hitting us, hitting our hunting grounds after we curated it. It would start fights. You should make sure your whole server knows this, so they can go curate their own ones. There are other alliances that were just too cheap to spend the stamina, so they would just hit ours, and it just creates more ire and more drama for Evony. So another strategy again, hitting commons will spawn regular bosses. Again, this is an important thing to look at in terms of specs. Again, understanding the mount attack, again, I just want to go over that one more time because it's that important, is so high. Generally, your mount will get you a higher tier boss at the same power level as Archer Ground, and then Siege is obviously the weakest. It's really not ideal for hunting bosses, especially with the distance. With the distance, some people do. I know some people are out there going to say no, it's perfect, just the same way you can sub rub and not take wounded. The real X factor to me is that I don't know what the boss's speeds are. I don't know how fast they come and close the distance. If the bosses are slow, Siege could be great. If the bosses are fast, it could be a bloodbath. So I never really wanted to find out, mostly because I don't want to waste the stone. So again, another way to actually maximize bossing, make sure you're getting your double item drop rate as high as possible. And a lot of people don't realize it, but a little bit of investment on the second circle spec, on Ethelfled, on Theodora, will get you 15%. People are paying $5 a week for the Ymir events to get the same percent. This one, you pay for it with runes that you already have, but if you don't have to pay for it after that one time. After you spend the runes, you've got that permanent 15%. So a lot of people use Baybars because he's got it in the yellow box, but now that with the assist general feature, you can throw in an Ethelfled. You can throw in a Theodora with the second spec, and the big box, by the way, does give also a buff. So it's important. The other way you can actually make sure your Baybars, when you're joining rallies, is getting you the best drop rate. Well, people are going gaga over 15% to pay the $5. How about throwing on a King's Ring at 26%? Right? There's a Dragon Ring that does it too. These rings can give you a double item drop rate right there on the second one down, as well as killing monster experience. So make sure you get your double drop rates as high as you can, right? And again, this is Theodora, right? Her basic box gives you another 10%. So important to know. Important to know that you get that. If you're willing to pay $5 for Ymirs, you should probably be willing to spend the runes on the second circle, especially since the second circle is one you tend to stack out once you're done doing them on your subgens. Then again, this is Baybars showing you that one. And lastly, Now that stamina has become such a hot commodity because they've done two things that you guys should all be aware of. One, coiners could support their alliance before by way-billing stamina. Well, the way-bills I mostly got out of Hydras. Well, guess what they just did with their update? No more way-bills in Hydras. So whatever way-bills you have, they are precious. Do not use way-bills to give out freaking decorations or whatever. Save your way-bills. Get the stamina to your non-coiners that are part of your alliance you want to take care of. Do not be frivolous with them. You're not getting them again. I think that one of the ways that they wanted to get rid of family member accounts, quote unquote, is by neutering those accounts that people will use for resources, is to make stamina the rate limiting step. And by getting rid of waybills, as well as increasing the cost of stamina for bossing, they're making the family member account methodology of getting resources less fruitful and really a lot less savings. So you need to understand saving that stamina as much as you can with a Nathaniel Green as an assist under a Bay Bars, Theodora. I think Ethelfled or Theodora actually has a little bit better once your second circle is up, double item drop rate than a Bay Bars. Double check my math on that, but I'm 90% sure on that. So Nathaniel Green's an important one to have. So in summary, bossing like a boss. Always use your mount for the strongest bosses to run rallies. That's running rallies. Always join rallies with one ground troop. Hammer commons to improve hunting grounds. Never join our rallies with Archer Siege or a Mount General with a Mount Speed book. That is very much to protect them. Assist generals for rally runners and both generals for joiners should maximize double drops or decrease stamina costs. Use the specials in gear. People don't tend to think of them. They always just think of Bay Bars and his yellow bots. It's a little interesting to me. And make sure you place your hive in an ideal position in your hunting grounds. Take advantage of that map. Take advantage of the fact that people don't understand the size distortion on that map. Make sure that you're, if you are going to spend the time to curate grounds, hunting grounds, that using that stamina on killing commons, if you're a guy who's coining heavily and have just unlimited stamina and now you can't even give it away, yeah, use it to kill commons and curate those grounds on Thursdays. Make sure that your spawn rates go up as high as possible. So again, if you guys have any questions, always available. Hit me up. I do appreciate all the feedback. You guys have been really great, and I'm hoping my work lets up a little bit. I can get back to the other scripted videos. I believe I'm going to be doing Civ gear next and the combos for ranged and siege. I have ground done scripted. I just don't have mounted scripted yet, but we'll get Civ gear, I think, covered next. Anybody has anything else they really want me to cover, again, reach out. I'll be happy to go over with you. Thanks. Bye.